Bella Vista Community Television presents Bella Vista Gardening. Gardening in February, colorful natives. Today's host is Jerry Herner, Master Gardener, and our guest is Corrin Troutman.
Welcome to the Bella Vista Gardening Program. I'm Jerry Horner, and today with me is Corrin Troutman, and she's a horticulturalist, and she specializes in native plants of the Ozarks, and she's just a walking encyclopedia about native plants. So I'm so glad she's joining us today, and we're going to talk about those colorful natives you can add to your garden, and there's so many good benefits for natives. We'll talk about that, and there's a few upcoming things, events coming up we'll discuss, and what to do in your garden in February. We have a few things that need to be attended to in February. We're starting the garden season, and vacation's over. We got to start working in the garden again. And the Arkansas Flower and Garden show is being held next month in Little Rock. It's March 2nd through the 4th, and they're in a new location. And they're going to have more parking, and it's going to be easier. It's more buildings and more room. So if you just Google the Arkansas Flower and Garden Show, you'll find all the information out. It's just a ton of information on the website. So anyway, we need to talk today about native plants. I just love native plants, and Corrin's just such an expert on them. She's had so much experience at Peel and at Compton Gardens with their native plants. So we need to talk mainly about the benefits. There's so many good benefits to native plants.
Absolutely. There is a tremendous amount of benefits that you get out of native plants. Your landscape really is supposed to be alive, and in order to have that living landscape, you have to plant the plants that the butterflies and bees and
insects,
birds really love to bring your
well, there's some plants
alive.
that you have to have in your garden to have butterflies. They're host plants, and trees are host plants for so many butterflies and moths. So it's just so important. And once they're established, you don't have to water as much. They're used to all these droughts and these fluctuations of the weather, and they're more adaptable. So they're so much easier to grow once they're established. So
absolutely, and the disease pressure a lot of times is less because this is the environment that they're used to growing in, and so they already have the resilience to some of the diseases and, as you said, some of the environmental factors that we have. But you also want to plant natives because you want to introduce biodiversity into your landscape. You want to do that for several reasons. One is if there is a disease that comes through, again, these native plants are going to be more resistant and resilient to those. But biodiversity helps the overall ecology of our ecosystem thrive and be healthier.
now it's really hard to have a total native plant landscape, although there is, some people do try to do that. And, I'm trying just to introduce more native plants into my garden. I don't want to give up my hostas. I don't want to give up to my, some of my plants that I love, but I am trying to put more native plants in the landscape. But if I'm replacing something, I'm thinking native.
Absolutely, and you can take baby steps. You don't have to rip out your entire landscape. You can have good native plants that are wonderful companion plants to, say, your hostas or those plants that you love. You can, on the other hand, go full throttle and plant only native plants, and there's good native plants to replace those classic horticulture landscape plants that we
And
do
they're
have.
pretty available. We have several nurseries, I think, now that are coming up with native plants that you can purchase, so that's good. So, but you do have some native plants to talk about here, and we have some examples of some of the trees. There's trees, shrubs, perennials, and there's the trees are here. I mean, you have a lot, say in Bella Vista, and you have native trees there. And you have oaks, maples, dogwoods, redbuds. But there's other ones that are, not as popular, but they are, interesting. The black gum is the first one.
So the black gum is a native plant. It likes kind of a moister soil, so it's a good one to plant in your landscape, especially if you have irrigation. But it's a multiple season of interest plant. So it's got beautiful glossy green leaves in the summertime, and then it has beautiful dark blue berries in the fall, and then this gorgeous red and orange fall color. So you get a multiple season of interest plant. Another really great native is the sassafras, and a lot of people don't think about this, but we always see it in the forest. And the sassafras has actually 3 different types of leaves just in one plant.
Yeah, they're totally different leaves.
Totally different leaves. It blooms in late winter, so you get yellow blooms on it, and then you get these gorgeous leaves, and then in the fall you have reds and oranges and yellows in this fall color. So again, it's a multiple season of interest.
Right, and there should be quite a few in Bella Vista.
Oh, they're all over Bella
Lots,
Vista,
yeah.
but they're also, as you said, a host plant to several different caterpillars that turn into beautiful moths also. Another really great native plant, and one of my personal favorites.
I know this is your favorite. It's
the
one of my
pawpaw.
favorites too.
But it's a wonderful plant. It blooms before the leaves come out. It has brown blossoms on it. It's more of an understory tree, so it likes a little bit more protection, but it will grow in full sun.
But you want more of a clump, more than one?
You want
And a
more
little
than one. So there's a little bit of conflict in the literature whether you need 2 plants in order to produce the fruit. But in nature, you always find these plants growing together in clusters. And so the more trees that you have, the more possibility that you have with fruiting. And then, of course, more of the fruit. And the fruit is edible, and it's wonderful to eat.
And it's delicious.
Oh my gosh, it makes an incredible pawpaw bread. If you have just a favorite banana bread recipe and you replace that with the pawpaws, it's
Because it tastes
wonderful.
like a mango and a banana and a pineapple mixed together. It's like a little pudding almost. It's wonderful. So, and the next one we're talking about is...
The next one is a shrub, and it's the sweet spire, the Itea. This is a great shrub if you have a lot of shade, because they thrive really well in shade.
Well, I have the Little Henry, which is a smaller version, and it's absolutely wonderful. Excuse me. And when I planted it, I saw the beautiful white flowers in the spring. And then in the fall, I looked out and I saw this gorgeous color. I could not believe the color. It was almost like a burning bush. And it was just beautiful. I was so surprised to see that beautiful color in the fall.
Yeah, and it's beautiful color in the shade, which you don't get a lot of that in the fall, having that beautiful fall color.
Right.
Another one is the oak leaf hydrangea, and a lot of people plant this and they really enjoy this, but they don't realize that it is one of our native plants that we have. You, of course, get the beautiful blossoms in early to late summertime, and then it has tremendous fall color on it. But one of the things that I really like about the oak leaf hydrangea that people forget is right now in the wintertime, you see that beautiful exfoliating bark that's on there, and it really adds some beautiful winter interest to your landscape too.
And the flowers, they'll start out white, and then they fade to like a pink, and then they fade to like a beige color at the end. But the colors of the flower just keeps changing as the season changes. So they're a beautiful plant.
Another great small tree in the landscape that people really don't utilize is our witch hazels. Now, we have the Ozark witch hazel, which blooms in the winter time. So right now is the time that those buds are starting to pop. And if you go hiking in February for Valentine's Day, you can actually smell that beautiful orange fragrance off
like
of those Ozark witch hazels.
Just like perfume
Yeah.
in the woods.
And great, again, a multiple season of interest plant. So you get these wonderful blossoms before the leaves come out. You get these beautiful green leaves during the summertime. And again, just orange and yellow fall colors on this tree. It's a really wonderful plant. Another one is our common witch hazel, which this one blooms in the fall. So you can plant these two together and you'll get a fall bloom on the common witch hazel and you'll get a winter bloom on the Ozark witch hazel. Now, the common witch hazel has the most brilliant yellow color in the fall whenever it turns, and it's just a gorgeous plant.
I'll tell you, and then having, all this color year round is wonderful. To have, things blooming in the spring and then in the fall, and then the fall colors. I mean, natives can be very colorful.
They can be extremely colorful. Another one that's in the witch hazel family is a small shrub called Fothergilla, and it again is a multiple season of interest. So it blooms these beautiful white bottlebrush blossoms in the springtime that smell like honey, and it's again for the full shade, so it gives some interest to your hostas, so a good companion plant there.
With that.
And gorgeous, gorgeous fall colors on this. You get oranges, you get reds, you get yellows, and sometimes you get purples on these too.
Wow. Because as your hostas dies down, then you have, nothing there. So this would be a wonderful companion plant.
Now, another one is summer sweet, and summer sweet actually can take more sun than your Itea or your Fothergilla. It's a great shrub. It forms a nice border. It has these gorgeous white blossoms on it again.
And the butterflies love those.
Oh my gosh, they just surround
It's almost like a butterfly bush sometimes.
It is, and they're so easy to care for. Again, these native plants are very easy to care for once you get them established. And again, just gorgeous bright yellow fall colors, so that multiple season of interest in your landscape is really what these native plants offer. Another great one is the beautyberry. And the beautyberry is one of those that everybody asks about in the fall. And it's not because of the flowers, but it's really because of the berries, because they have those gorgeous fuchsia colored berries in August, when you don't have a lot of color in your landscape.
It's one of my favorites, really is. I
And
love
they're
it.
easy to care for once you get them established. They can take full sun to part shade, and they make a beautiful backdrop to some of your perennials that you have in the garden.
Well, and then the leaves turn yellow, and then you have this purple berries with the beautiful yellow leaves. It's just a stunning, stunning plant in the fall. It's really wonderful.
Another great one is the strawberry bush, and this is our native euonymus that we have. And it's not like the Japanese euonymus. This euonymus is actually a shrub.
And it's not very invasive.
And it's not invasive.
That's
it's
good.
easy to control. It can be a large shrub, but it can take full sun. It's got really small little flowers on it, but the spectacular thing about this shrub is whenever the berries come out, because they do look like hanging strawberries on this shrub that then burst open with these bright orange fruit on it. And one of the common names of the strawberry bush is actually burning bush, and the reason that they call it that is because it's got this intense red fall color that is just gorgeous.
Now, is that in the mint family, or is that a different burning bush?
So it's a different burning bush. It's not in the mint family.
Okay, so the burning bush that has the square stems can be pretty invasive.
It can be.
So you want to avoid this. This would be a wonderful replacement for those.
Right.
So if you lose a burning bush, put one of those in, the strawberry bush.
Another really nice small shrub, or excuse me, small tree would be the red chokeberry, and it's a gorgeous plant. It's got small green leaves on it. It is deciduous, but it's got beautiful red fall color on it, but it also has these red berries that hold on almost entirely through the winter time.
Really?
So it gives this really pretty winter interest to your landscape.
I don't have one of those. I'm going to have to find one, find a place to put it. So.
Another really great small tree in the landscape that people tend to overlook is the American smoke tree. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the smoke tree, but they're familiar with the Chinese smoke tree, which has the purple leaves on it. Our American smoke tree actually has green leaves in the summertime.
But those smoky little blooms are just so different.
They're just gorgeous, these beautiful puffs of blossoms that are there. But again, it's a great multiple season interest plant because it's got extremely gorgeous fall color. You get purples and reds and yellows and oranges off of this tree. And it's really underutilized in the landscape and should be planted more.
And then isn't there a nursery in Fayetteville that's specializing in native plants?
There is a nursery in Fayetteville that specializes in native plants, White River Nursery, that's in East Fayetteville, almost to Elkins. They have a phenomenal selection of native trees and shrubs and perennials that you can find.
Sometimes it is hard to find some of these native plants. And you're certainly not going to find them at the box stores, but you just don't know. But, you have to search around.
Another one of my favorite small trees to large shrubs, native plants, is one of our native viburnums, and this is the black haw.
And I have this, and I love it. It's in my woods, and it's wonderful.
It is a wonderful, wonderful plant to have in your landscape. It can take full sun to part shade. They bloom at the end of spring, early summer. They have white blossoms on them that are just gorgeous.
It's like a little umbrella.
It is,
flowers.
absolutely.
It's so cute.
And once they've been pollinated by our native insects, then they have green berries that turn this blush pink in the summertime, and then in fall and during the winter, they're an intense, deep blue color to the berries that are just gorgeous. And then with that, and then this bright red, rich fall color that they have, those berries really stand out on that plant.
Red and blue, just beautiful combination.
So not only are there a lot of trees and shrubs that are native that would be beautiful in your landscape, we have some gorgeous perennials also. And one really great one is the liatris. And the liatris tends to be drought hardy. They like full sun. You can find a lot of different native liatris, but you can find some cultivars off of the native. The slide shows actually a liatris mix between the white and the purple liatris that looks gorgeous in a mass planting.
And they could be labeled as blazing star, when you go to buy them.
Yeah. Now, one of the native perennials that gets a bad rap is our goldenrod.
We're trying to educate people. It's not the goldenrod that causes your allergies.
And unfortunately, the goldenrod blooms in fall, the same time that hay fever season is around. But it's not the goldenrod that's causing the problems.
It's the ragweed, and it looks a lot like the goldenrod sometimes.
It does.
It's hard to tell the difference.
It does, but since the goldenrod has these intense, beautiful yellow flowers that are so showy, people are thinking that that's what they're allergic to. But actually, the goldenrod pollen is too small to irritate our sinuses, so it's not the goldenrod. Now, there is lots of different kinds of goldenrod that are native and lots of different species that you can use too. You can find dwarf goldenrod now that only get about 2 feet tall that make a beautiful border plant.
Yeah, because some of the natives are rather tall.
Yes.
And then there's some that are a little smaller. So that's good.
So again, another wide variety of natives are our asters, and there's lots of beautiful asters that you can incorporate into the landscape. The nice thing about the asters is they're again blooming in that early fall in August when you don't have a whole lot going on.
That'll add your color when all the other perennials are basically finished blooming.
Correct. And again, there's a wide range of heights in the asters. So you can play with asters and find shorter asters that go into the front of your landscape, or those taller asters like the New England aster that'll be in the back of the landscape to add that rich purple color in the fall.
Yeah.
Now, there again is lots of different native perennials. One really great, intense red one is the cardinal flower, which attracts hummingbirds to your landscape.
Oh, yeah, they love those cardinal flowers.
And they are so fun to grow and very easy. Another one of my favorites are the blue star, and the blue star is a very tame perennial and very easy to grow. They look gorgeous in a formal landscape. So again, if you're not wanting to give up all of your non-native species, this is a great companion plant in full sun because it has that formal feel to it. It has blue blossoms in the springtime, and then it has yellow color in the fall once the plant goes dormant. There's a lot of sunflowers, one that might be a little much for the homeowner, but if you've got a nice piece that you need some real height and drama to it.
Like against a fence?
Like against a fence would be perfect for the Maximilian sunflower. And this doesn't have the large sunflower head like we're used to.
Will it be dropey and dropping?
Right. It's got smaller flowers, but are all over the stems of this. And the reason that they call it Maximilian sunflower is because you have millions of these beautiful blossoms all over this plant in the fall.
Yeah. Another one is the coneflower, right?
Right. And there's lots of cultivars off of the coneflower that you can add, but that echinacea, the native one, is just phenomenal, especially if you want those insects and those pollinators into your landscape. And very drought tolerant, hardy perennial, just like the black-eyed Susan is a great native perennial that people tend to forget, but really resilient in your landscape.
Yeah, a lot of color.
A lot of color.
So I don't know if that's all the pictures we have to show, but you know, if you go online and you just, you know, ask for natives, colorful natives, you find all kinds of natives. Now when they have a native plant that they hybridize with different varieties, it's still a native plant, right?
It's still a native plant. Well, we refer to that as a nativar. So it's a cultivar off of that native plant. Now, if you want, the natives actually add those true, really good value to it. But if you want to plant for biodiversity, you can plant those nativars in with the native plants.
And they would still attract the same insects?
Absolutely.
And give you the same benefits, basically.
Right.
But you can have just a little different variety.
Right.
Okay. Well, there's just so much to learn about natives, I'm telling you. But they're wonderful. And there's a book that everyone should read, and it's the book by Doug Tallamy. And it's called, I didn't bring the book with me, but it's
called Bringing Nature Home.
Bringing Nature Home. Everyone should read that book. I mean, that
absolutely.
is, you know, if you're not out in the garden in February, just read that book before you go out and make your plans, because it's an eye-opener to tell you how important these natives are and the benefits of these natives are wonderful. And then the Missouri Wildflower Nursery, they're up in Jefferson City, and they have a catalog, and it will rate all of the native plants that they sell with stars. And if it's a 4-star, that's something you could probably put in your front garden, your front lawn, your front yard. But if it's a 1-star, you may want to put it in the back of the garden. It may not be quite as showy all year round, but it's really nice to see that these are rated, so you know what to expect from these plants. So.
They have a beautiful catalog, and wintertime is always a great time for you to dream and to plan for it. And the Missouri Wildflower has one of the best catalogs because, as you said, it's an education tool.
It is.
Along with being a beautiful catalog that you can order plants from. They propagate their own plants in-house. You can purchase them directly from that catalog, but as you said, they have a rating system that makes it very easy for either the horticulturist or the novice to really put some good information in their brains
and
then
their
into the garden.
Your guide, it tells you what, sun, shade, moisture, they tell you everything you need to know about that plant before you buy it.
Right.
So it's a great asset to have in your library. I just keep one all the time. So, okay. Well, I think we've gone through all the natives that we're talking about. Now we really need to talk about what to do in your garden in February. So your house plants, you have to just watch for spider mites and scale. Insecticidal soap will take care of a lot of the problems with your scale and your mites. But you don't want to overwater. That's one of the reasons your houseplants die, is because they're overwatered. And very few die because of underwatering, but it takes a long time for that to happen, but it's usually overwatering. So, and then we're doing annuals and vegetables coming up.
So since you've taken the winter time to look at those catalogs and decide what it is that you want to plant, now is the time that you can get that second crop of cool season vegetables started in your garden. So you can plant snap peas right now, you can plant spinach, you can plant some lettuce, you can also get another crop of broccoli if you start it right now.
And we've had a really cold winter.
Yes.
We've had some very cold days. And we just don't know what to expect for February. So, if you're just looking at the weather, you might want to, plant later in the month if we're going to have some really bad weather for the beginning of February. Maybe wait till the end of February. See. And your lawns, be sure that you get your soil test. This is a great time to get soil test on your lawn to see what's needed. And it's a good time to apply lime if the soil test tells you need that. So it's a great time, because the farmers aren't putting their soil test in yet, and they take sometimes 4 to 6 weeks when the farmers start putting their soil test in. So,
Another thing to do in February coming up is actually to care for your roses. So I always tell people, think about roses during Valentine's Day. It's the time to give them to your loved one, but it's also the time to get out into your landscape and prune your roses in February. You also want to prune some of your other things, but roses, it's really important. And it is time to start thinking about adding a little bit more. If you compost, it's time to put a little bit of compost out for your roses. Make sure they have a good layer of mulch on them.
right. I was always told by a rosarian, when the forsythias bloom, that's when you trim your roses, and it's usually in February. So, and your trees and shrubs, just keep monitoring for the water, and if they need water. We haven't had a lot of, we haven't had a lot of snow, but when we haven't had a lot of moisture. We're still down, I think last year we were down like 16 inches, something like that. So the moisture's been a problem for the trees and shrubs, especially if you just planted them last year. Just be sure you monitor that. And late in the month you can fertilize, put some compost down, some natural fertilizer, except you don't want to fertilize your spring blooming bushes yet, or shrubs. Just fertilize them after they bloom. And you can prune your crepe myrtles and your butterfly bush. That's a good time to prune butterfly bush too. It's your crepe myrtles and butterfly bush in February, late February. And then perennials, we have to worry about our perennials now.
We do have to worry about our perennials now. It's a little early to divide the perennials. You're going to want to wait, since you never know what Arkansas weather is going to bring you. You kind of want to wait till the end of February to March to start dividing your perennials. But now's a good time again to go through and clean them up. If you haven't pruned off any of the dead off of them yet, now's a good time to do that. Make sure that they still have a pretty good layer of mulch on them until you start dividing. But early spring, late winter is the perfect time to divide your perennials and multiply your garden.
Right. And then, we always have that real warms, like a week in February. It's a terrible thing we get. But it's like everything thinks it's spring, and they start coming out and blooming, and then the snow hits or the cold hits, and they're just devastated again. So that's how I've lost some of my plants, is that warm weather we have in February, and then it just dries. So, okay. And grasses, this is a time to cut back your liriope and your grasses, your ornamental grasses. Just cut them down pretty low, and they'll be coming back. So, but anyway, I want to thank you for joining me today. And we have the garden club, the Bella Vista Garden Club will be meeting in the fourth Wednesday of the month at 11 o'clock. And we meet at the community church on Lancashire. And I'll be giving the program this month about dividing and potting plants successfully. So if you want to move a plant, you have to pot it and divide it. So I'll be giving that program. Guests are always welcome for that. So, and for more information, you go to their website. It's bellavistagardenclub.com. And you want to mark your calendars. We've got some upcoming events later in the year, but you want to mark your calendars now because things get pretty busy, and you start getting the calendar too full. So the Benton County Master Gardener Expo and plant sale is April 28th, and the Bella Vista Garden Club plant sale is always the first Saturday in May. It's May 5th. And then the Garden Club, the Bella Vista Garden Club is having another garden party. It's going to be Garden Party 2 on June 8th, so mark your calendar for that. Everybody wants to go to that. It was wonderful last time. So thank you for Corrin. I mean, I just always learn so much when I talk to you about natives or anything horticulture-wise, and I really appreciate you coming and sharing your knowledge.
Oh, I'm happy to, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Okay. And I hope you enjoy the show, and we'll tune in again next month. Until then, don't forget to stop and smell the roses.